Milan Kundera is the Czech Republic's most recognized living writer. Of Czech origin, he has lived in exile in France since 1975, having become a naturalized citizen in 1981. He sees himself as a French writer and insists his work should be studied as French literature and classified as such in bookstores. Kundera's best-known work is The Unbearable Lightness of Being. His books were banned by the communist regimes of Czechoslovakia until the downfall of the regime in the Velvet Revolution of 1989. He lives virtually incognito and rarely speaks to the media. A perennial contender for the Nobel Prize in Literature, he has been nominated on several occasions. Biography: Kundera was born in 1929 at Prague, 6 and No, Czechoslovakia, to a middle-class family. His father, Ludvík Kundera, once a pupil of the composer Leo Jana Infinitek, was an important Czech musicologist and pianist who served as the head of the Jana Infinitek Music Academy in Brno from 1948 to 1961. Milan learned to play the piano from his father. He later studied musicology and musical composition. Musicological influences and references can be found throughout his work. He has even included musical notation in the text to make a point. Kundera is a cousin of Czech writer and translator Ludvík Kundera. He belonged to the generation of young Czechs who had had little or no experience of the pre-war democratic Czechoslovak Republic. Their ideology was greatly influenced by the experiences of World War II and the German occupation. Still in his teens, he joined the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia, which seized power in 1948. He completed his secondary school studies in Brno at Gymnasium and registered trademark Adar Kapita na Jarowaí in 1948. He studied literature and aesthetics at the Faculty of Arts at Charles University in Prague. After 2 terms, he transferred to the film faculty of the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague, where he first attended lectures in film direction and script writing. In 1950, his studies were briefly interrupted by political interferences. He and writer Jan Ćfálka were expelled from the party for anti-party activities. Ćfálka described the incident in his novella Přílogím Angstrom Taster. Kundera also used the incident as an inspiration for the main theme of his novel Angstrom 1/2 et. After Kundera graduated in 1952, a film faculty appointed him a lecturer in world literature. In 1956 Milan Kundera was readmitted into the party. He was expelled for the second time in 1970. Kundera, along with other reform communist writers such as Pavel Kohout, was partly involved in the 1968 Prague Spring. This brief period of reformist activities was crushed by the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia in August 1968. Kundera remained committed to reforming Czech communism, and argued vehemently in print with fellow Czech writer Václav Havel, saying, essentially, that everyone should remain calm and that nobody is being locked up for his opinions yet, and the significance of the Prague Autumn may ultimately be greater than that of the Prague Spring. Finally, however, Kundera relinquished his reformist dreams and moved to France in 1975. He taught for a few years in the University of Rennes. He was stripped of Czechoslovak citizenship in 1979. He has been a French citizen since 1981. He maintains contact with Czech and Slovak friends in his homeland, but rarely returns and always does so incognito. Work: although his early poetic works are staunchly pro-communist, his novels escape ideological classification. Kundera has repeatedly insisted on being considered a novelist, rather than a political or dissident writer. Political commentary has all but disappeared from his novels except in relation to broader philosophical themes. Kundera's style of fiction, interlaced with philosophical digression, greatly inspired by the novels of Robert Musil and the philosophy of Nietzsche, is also used by authors Alain de Botton and Adam Thirlwell. Kundera takes his inspiration, as he notes often enough, not only from the Renaissance authors Giovanni Boccaccio and Rabelais, but also from Laurence Sterne, Henry Fielding, Denis Diderot, Robert Musil, Witold Gombrowicz, Hermann Brock, Franz Kafka, Martin Heidegger, and perhaps most importantly, Miguel de Cervantes, to whose legacy he considers himself most committed. Originally, he wrote in Czech. From 1993 onwards, he has written his novels in French. Between 1985 and 1987 he undertook the revision of the French translations of his earlier works. As a result, all of his books exist in French with the authority of the original. His books have been translated into many languages. A detailed discussion of Milan Kundera's work in English, written originally by Jan Aake for the U.S. Dictionary of Literary Biography, is available on the website of the University of Glasgow here. The Joke. In his first novel, The Joke, he gave a satirical account of the nature of totalitarianism in the communist era. Kundera was quick to criticize the Soviet invasion in 1968. This led to his blacklisting in Czechoslovakia and his works being banned there. Life is Elsewhere. Kundera's second novel was first published in French as La vie est ailleurs in 1973 and in Czech as Angstrom 1/2 of Giant in 1979. Set in Czechoslovakia before, during and after the Second World War, Life is Elsewhere is a satirical portrait of the fictional poet Jaromil, a young and very naive idealist who becomes involved in political scandals. The Book of Laughter and Forgetting. In 1975, Kundera moved to France. There he published The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, which told of Czech citizens opposing the communist regime in various ways. An unusual mixture of novel, short story collection and author's musings, the book set the tone for his works in exile. Critics have noted the irony that the country that Kundera seemed to be writing about when he talked about Czechoslovakia in the book, is, thanks to the latest political redefinitions, no longer precisely there, which is the kind of disappearance and reappearance Kundera explores in the book. Published in Czech in April 1981 by 68 Publishers, Toronto. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Kundera's most well-known work, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, was published in 1984. The book chronicles the fragile nature of an individual's fate, theorizing that a single lifetime is insignificant in the scope of Nietzsche's concept of eternal return. In an infinite universe, everything is guaranteed to recur infinitely. In 1988, American director Philip Kaufman released a film adaptation, Immortality. In 1990, Kundera published Immortality. The novel, his last in Czech, was more cosmopolitan than its predecessors, as well as more explicitly philosophical and less political. It would set the tone for his later novels. Writing style and philosophy. Kundera's characters are often explicitly identified as figments of his own imagination, commenting in the first person on the characters in entirely third-person stories. Kundera is more concerned with the words that shape or mold his characters than with the character's physical appearance. In his non-fiction work, The Art of a Novel, he says that the reader's imagination automatically completes the writer's vision. He, as the writer, wishes to focus on the essential insofar as the physical is not critical to an understanding of the character. For him, the essential may not include the physical appearance or even the interior world of his characters. Other times, a specific feature or trait may become the character's idiosyncratic focus. Frana section Wa Ricard suggested that Kundera conceives with regard to an overall oeuvre, rather than limiting his ideas to the scope of just one novel at a time. His themes and meta-themes exist across the entire oeuvre. Each new book manifests the latest stage of his personal philosophy. Some of these meta-themes include exile, identity, life beyond the border, history as continual return, and the pleasure of a less important life. Many of Kundera's characters are intended as expositions of one of these themes at the expense of their fully developed humanity. Specifics in regard to the characters tend to be rather vague. Often, more than one main character is used in a novel, even to the extent of completely discontinuing a character and resuming the plot with a brand new character. As he told Philippe Rath in an interview in The Village Voice, intimate life is understood as one's personal secret, as something valuable, inviolable, the basis of one's originality. Kundera's early novels explore the dual tragic and comic aspects of totalitarianism. He does not view his works, however, as political commentary. The condemnation of totalitarianism doesn't deserve a novel, says Kundera. According to the Mexican novelist Carlos Fuentes, what he finds interesting is the similarity between totalitarianism and the immemorial and fascinating dream of a harmonious society where private life and public life form but one unity and all are united around one will and one faith. In exploring the dark humor of this topic, Kundera seems deeply influenced by Franz Kafka. Kundera considers himself to be a writer without a message. For example, in the 63 Words, a chapter in the art of the novel, Kundera recounts an episode when a Scandinavian publisher hesitated about going ahead with the publication of the Farewell Party because of the apparent anti-abortion message contained in the novel. Kundera explains that not only was the publisher wrong about the existence of such a message in the work, but I was delighted with a misunderstanding. I had succeeded as a novelist. I succeeded in maintaining the moral ambiguity of the situation. I had kept faith with the essence of the novel as an art, irony. And irony doesn't give a damn about messages. He also digresses into musical matters, analyzing Czech folk music, quoting from Leo Jana Infinite Ek and Barter Cubed K. Further in this vein, he interpolates musical excerpts into the text, or discusses Schoenberg and atonality. Miroslav Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek controversy. On October 13, 2008, the Czech weekly Respect prominently publicized an investigation carried out by the Czech Institute for Studies of Totalitarian Regimes, which alleged that Kundera had denounced a young Czech pilot, Miroslav Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek, to the police in 1950. The accusation was based on a police station report which named Milan Kundera, student, born January 4, 1929 as the informant in regard to the presence of Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek at a student dormitory. Information about his defection from military service in residence in Germany was attributed in the report to Ivo Militka. The target of the subsequent arrest, Miroslav Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek, had fled Czechoslovakia after being ordered to join the infantry in the wake of a purge of the flight academy and returned to Czechoslovakia as an agent of a spy agency organized by Czechoslovak exiles. The police report does not mention his activity as an agent. Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek returned secretly to the student dormitory of a friend's former sweetheart, Ivo Militka. Militka was dating a fellow student Ivan Blask, and Blask knew Kundera. The police report states that Militka told Blask who told Kundera who told the police of Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek's presence in town. Although the communist prosecutor sought the death penalty, Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek was sentenced to 22 years, and ended up serving 14 years in a labor camp, with some of that time spent in a uranium mine, before being released. After Respect's report, Kundera denied turning Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek into the police, stating he did not know him at all, and could not even recollect Militka. This denial was broadcast in Czech, but is available in English transcript only in abbreviated paraphrase. On October 14, 2008, the Czech Security Forces Archive ruled out the possibility that the document could be a fake, but refused to make any interpretation about it. While many critics in the Czech Republic condemned Kundera as a police informer, there were also many voices which sharply criticized Respect for publishing a badly researched piece. The problem was that the short police report according to which young Kundera allegedly informed on Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek does not contain Kundera's signature, nor does it contain any information from his ID card. Kundera was the student representative of the Hall of Residence which Vo unregistered trademark Infinite Ek visited, and it cannot be ruled out that anyone could have reported him to the police using Kundera's name. Contradictory statements by Kundera's fellow students were carried by the Czech newspapers in the wake of this scandal. Historian Tomaso Ridolek was criticized for an undeclared conflict of interest. One of the protagonists of the incident was his relative. The Prague-based Institute for the Study of Totalitarian Regimes is regarded by many as a propagandistic institution. It states on its website that its task is to impartially study the crimes of the former communist regime. Critics also accused Respect for using the under-researched Kundera scandal to boost its weakening circulation figures. Prague literary scholar Jakub Boyka has produced a detailed Bothian analysis of the process which turned Milan Kundera into an informer. Though unregistered trademark ʻmɪlan still believes he was betrayed by Ivar Militka. His wife said she doubted the so-called evidence against Kundera. Blask, who according to the police report told Kundera of Dvo unregistered trademark ʻmɪlan's presence, died in the 1990s. He had told his wife Militka that he had mentioned Dvo unregistered trademark ʻmɪlan's arrival to Kundera. 2 days after the incident became widely publicized, a counterclaim was made by literary historian Zdeněk Piat. He said that Blask was the informant in the case, and Blask had told him that he had informed the police. Piat, then a member of a branch of Czechoslovak Communist Party, said he believed that Blask informed on Dvo unregistered trademark ʻmɪlan to protect his girlfriend from sanctions for being in contact with an agent provocateur. As Kundera's name still appears as the informer on the police report, this still leaves open the possibility that Kundera informed on Dvo unregistered trademark ʻmɪlan to the police separately from Blask, or had been set up by Blask to do the deed itself. In the first-person postscript to Life is Elsewhere, Kundera defends his protagonist: "He is a monster. But his monstrosity is potentially contained in us all. It is in me." The protagonist had, among other things, denounced to the authorities a young man about to flee Czechoslovakia. Kundera has since expressed that the characters in my novels are my own unrealized possibilities. The novel is not the author unregistered trademark's confession. The German newspaper Die Welt compared Kundera to Gar 1/4 Ntila Grass, recipient of the 1999 Nobel Prize in Literature, who in 2006 was revealed to have been drafted into the Waffen-SS in the Second World War. Ivan Klamar wrote in the Daily Lidova Copyright Noviny, "From a reader's perspective it may well be true that if we are disappointed in someone we believed in and admired, our feelings are hurt and our trust is shaken. However, none of this should be used to excuse or exculpate our own misdeeds." Václav Havel did not believe the story. On November 3, 2008, 11 internationally recognized writers came to Kundera's defense. These included 4 Nobel laureates: J.M. Kuezi, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Nadine Gordimer and Orhan Pamuk, as well as Carlos Fuentes, Juan Goytisolo, Philip Roth, Salman Rushdie and Jorge Semper N. Awards and honors. In 1985, Kundera received the Jerusalem Prize. His acceptance address is printed in his essay collection The Art of the Novel. He won the Austrian State Prize for European Literature in 1987. In 2000, he was awarded the International Herder Prize. In 2007, he was awarded the Czech State Literature Prize. In 2010, he was made an honorary citizen of his hometown, Brno. In 2011, he received the Ovid Prize. The asteroid 7390 Kundera, discovered at the Clarion Observatory in 1983, is named in his honor. Works: novels, The Joke, The Farewell Waltz, Life is Elsewhere, The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, Immortality, Slowness, Identity, Ignorance, La Festa dell'Insignificanza, published in Italian in 2013, short story collection, Laughable Loves, poetry collections, Aerolevax Ora de Angstra Myra Posledna Marja celebration of Julius Fual A.K., monology, essays, Osporage Dedica 1/2 ch, Amana Roma New, Sesta Vladislava Varna Erzar Velka Epico, Araeska 1/2 Adul, Radicalismus Exposice, The Stolen West or the Tragedy of Central Europe, The Art of the Novel, Testaments Betrayed, an essay. In 9 parts, Den Bows to Humira's Les Roses, a rare book in French, illustrated by Ernest Briller, The Curtain, Encounter, Drama, Majitla copyright Klau Angstrom Vawai, Visvatbi, Tarkovina, Jacques and his Master, references. Further reading, Leonidas Donskis. Yet Another Europe After 1984, Rethinking Milan Kundera and the Idea of Central Europe 223 pp. ISBN 978-90-420-3543-0 Online review, Charles Sabatos. Shifting Contexts, The Boundaries of Milan Kundera's Central Europe, in Contexts, Subtexts, and Pretexts, Literary Translation in Eastern Europe and Russia, ed. Brian James Bear, pages 19-31. External links, Biographical, Milan Kundera at the Internet Movie Database, Milan Kundera and the Czech Republic. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Milan Kundera November 9, 2008 New York Times. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Book Reviews. Interviews, Review. The Unbearable Lightness of Being April 2, 1984 New York Times. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Reading with Kundera by Russell Banks March 4, 2007 New York Times. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Review of Slowness from the Review of European Studies. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Of Dogs and Death A Review of Unreconter April 27, 2009. The Oxonian Review. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Interview with Kundera at the Wayback Machine The Review of Contemporary Fiction, Summer 1989, 9.2. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Christian Salmon. Milan Kundera, The Art of Fiction No. 81. The Paris Reviewer, Open Letters, 2 Messages. Article by Václav Havel in Salon October 2008. Retrieved September 25, 2010, The Flawed Defense article by Milan Kundera in Salon November 2008. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Informing Unterra, by Ivan Klamar, about the Kundera controversy Salon October 2008. Retrieved September 25, 2010, Leprosy by JRM Registered Trademark Astra NSKA 1/2, about the Kundera controversy, Salon October 2008. Retrieved September 25, 2010,